morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, some cows are looking pretty close these days, and most of the calving ground is free of snow so far, and it's looking pretty good. But as always, we wonder about the prices in the fall. And the Rangeland News at what's going to influence those numbers.
Over $15 more than last year's average again.
It's reflecting those tight supplies and very strong meat demand as well.
And from deep down in the vault, Tom Munn has the story of the worst thing that ever happened to him.
And a bear was running off in the other direction. My shooting had scared it off. Well, I looked at the bottom of the tree, and to my horror, I could see that both of Al's ears were down at the trunk of it.
And the great Brian Salmond in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight.
Procrastination all the time. He hadn't written much, but every morn when he'd awake, in the twilight of his mind were dancing lines of prose and wit, the rare and precious kind.
And on the Urban Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a small gem of wisdom that can make a huge difference. And speaking of horsemanship, Shlomik Raziel, the Holy Land horseman, is back with some more of his insights.
And that young horse, see the older horse, relax the tail a lot.
We've got bull sale information, horse expo news, and much more. It'll be pretty busy, and regarding music, here's Joni Harms from a live show in Ireland with something we all agree with.
Let's put the Western back in the country, everybody. They used to call it country and Western. Could someone tell me where the Western went? Did it stray from the herd like some poor doggy that wound up tangled in a barbed wire fence? Or was it traveling on a stage out of Denver that never made it into Santa Fe? Jesse James, who took the gold and made a getaway. Let's put the Western back in the country. Hello out there, we're still here. We ain't dropped off in the ocean, not yet. Rode off in the sun and disappeared. Let's put the Western back in the country. You can either sing along or lend an ear. Well, partner, it's your choice. Won't you listen to the voice of the sons and daughters of the pioneers? On the sunset side of the mountain, where the waters all run the other way, coyotes howl in the moonlight, and we're up with the sun by break of day. If you ever get a glimpse of the glory, and I know you'll never be the same, so back up to the fire with a warm cup of coffee, and I know you'll feel at home on the range. Let's put the Western back in the country. Hello out there, we're still here.
Come on down to McAleer Ranch March 27th to check out the Integrity Speckle Park sale offering. There will be yearling and 2-year-old bulls as well as purebred and commercial females for sale from Movin' Spots, Wolf Lake, and McAleer Ranch. All animals sell via DLMS Farm Gate timed auction. The sale closes on March 27th at 6 Central Standard Time. Supper and hospitality will be provided. Contact Dustin at 306-228-1498 for more information. We look forward to seeing you March 27th at the McAleer Ranch, south of Unity, Saskatchewan. Curtis and that group always put a great sale together, and you probably do know, Speckle Park was the first breed developed exclusively in Canada, and they are sure making a reputation for themselves. So hope you can take that sale in, and hi to everybody out there in southern Saskatchewan catching us on CKSW and CJSN. Boy, they've been so faithful, carried the show for a long, long time. Well, Shlomik Raziel is one of Israel's finest horsemen, and he credits Martin Black as one of his North American mentors. How did you first find out about or get to meet Martin Black?
Well, actually, I knew his name. He's famous even in Israel, and Martin and Chris Cox is famous. And I just read in the Western Horseman magazine about this event, and I said, well, I saw that those three names, Katie Twistelman and Martin and Chris, and I didn't know how to get a hold of Chris or Martin, but I remember Twistelman from the roping thing. So I called my friend, the team roper, Dusty Watkins, and I asked him, do you know Katie Twistelman? He said, yeah, of course I know her. So he gave me her phone number, and I called her. And she said, okay, we have to check, with Martin and Chris, and we have to decide. You send us some stuff about your videos and DVDs, see what you do over there. And then Martin called me, and we talked, and I didn't know that this is Martin Black calling me. And by the time I understand, I was like,
yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my gosh. So it didn't take you too long to make up your mind to accept the invitation.
Oh, yeah.
Come over.
Yeah.
So after this is over, are you headed right back to Israel, or are you here for a while?
No, I'm whenever it's over, my flight is Monday, month 22, yeah.
You can't stay for any brandings on some of the ranches around?
No, I'm here. I got here last month for the Road to the Horse. I was there as an international guest clinician.
Okay.
And so I just spent the time between Road to the Horse to the Horseman Reunion visiting all kinds of... I spent some time with friends in... thank you. I've spent some time with friends in West Virginia that we met in Rayan Clinic 16 years ago. And we became such a good friends since that clinic.
Neat. Yeah. Well, before I had met Shlomik at the Horsemen's Reunion in Paso Robles, he'd spent 2 months in the States, and he'll tell you what he was doing when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Shlomik Raziel is regarded as one of the best horsemen in Israel, and for that matter, pretty well anywhere. Now, before we got together at the Horsemen's Reunion, he'd been at the Road to the Horse colt starting competition in Kentucky, and that's where he met Jonathan Field. And Jonathan and I have kept in touch with Shlomik ever since. In fact, Jonathan bought one of the colts he started at the reunion, and he's turning into a superstar now. And his name, by the way, is Little.
Well, I know Jonathan was at the Road to the Horse again this last year, and a few of the others, so you had a chance to kind of get to know some of them a little bit before this started.
Yeah, we kind of like 50% of the clinicians that were there in Road to the Horse, they're here in Horseman Reunion.
Yeah.
So we had a little bit, time to talk a little bit and know each other.
Have you ever competed in any of these colt starting competitions?
Well, we have almost the same thing in Israel, that like the Road to the Horse stuff, we call it Horse Whisper. We do it in a one-day event. You have 4 hours with break in the middle that you have to give the horse a break, but you have 4 hours to start a colt, and then you have the obstacle course. So I won this event last year, 2012. I won that Israeli version of Road to the Horse.
What are the horses like that you'd use in something like that? Would they be similar to what we're seeing here?
Well, not as good bloodlines as you get here, but some of them are just local Israeli horses that mix between Arabian and quarter horse, and some of them are quarter horses.
And the colts you're working with here, what are your thoughts at the point you're at with them now? How are they doing for you?
Oh, they're great. You know, they're just young, and you need a lot of patience with colts, but they're doing great, really good. You know, it's the best bloodlines. You know, I go through their papers and I say, whoa, that's the best bloodlines ever.
That's right, yeah. And it's nice right here, you've got 5 days you don't have to hurry too much for the process. You come up against a little bit of an issue or a wall or something, well, you've got time to deal with it rather than just sort of skipping over it and going on. That brings back some great memories. That's how Billy and I celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary, going down to Paso Robles, California, and the Horsemen's reunion at the invitation of Martin Blank. And Shlomik will describe his method of getting on a horse for the first time after something that I haven't played for quite a while. This is Donnie Blantz in the Wrangler.
On a colt he's halfway broke, he whistles Laredo, the first song he heard as a child. He's dusty but trusty and steady from all the long miles. His talk somewhat slow, his legs somewhat bowed. He's rich without owning a thing, except the silver in his hair and gold in the sunsets he's seen. His home is the trail and his bed is the grass on the ground. All his neighbors wear horns and his best friends were born of a string Cortez turned out. All he needs in the world is a waltz with a pretty girl, sometimes on Saturday night. A good horse to ride, to live his own life, and a soft place to lay when he dies. Now he's been in a few, and he's lost one or two, but he ain't one to hold him a grudge. He's rode through the snow and the four winds that blow. Sometimes he even slept in the mud. And he don't give a damn for a quitter or a man who don't have the heart to just try. But he'll stand to the end with a friend and never ask why. His home is trail and his bed is the grass on the ground. All his neighbors wear horns and his best friends were born of a string Cortez turned out. Now all he needs in this world is a waltz with a pretty girl, sometimes on Saturday nights. A good horse to ride, live his own life, then a soft place to lay when he dies. Just a good horse to ride, to live his own life, then a soft place to lay when he dies.
Well, Donnie Bland's co-wrote that with his late friend Ed Bruce, and you can really kind of hear the influence of Ed Bruce's style in that song called The Wrangler. Well, some colt starters have used this procedure for getting on a colt for the first time, and Shlomik Raziel is one of them.
Notice you were getting on from I think it was you getting on from the top rail of the fence.
Yeah.
That's something the older I get, and Bobby Ingersoll referred to, that is just so handy. And pretty well every horse I have, I've kind of taught to sidestep right up to the fence and step on that way. Do you do that with most of them?
Well, I start all my, if you were here in the first days,
Missed the first day.
I start all my colts from my older horse, from another horse, because I work by myself. It's not like here that you can use all those guys to help you.
Yeah.
So whenever you work by yourself, you have to develop all kinds of things that will help you. Actually, I didn't invent that. I saw Ray handle it, so I took it and used it. But give that colt my philosophy. When you work, the horse is already in stress at the colt. No matter what you do, he's in stress. You take him from all his friends, you put him with somebody else in round pen. That's all he got, in round pen. And if I put all the horse over there with me, is that he's relaxed. Mm-hmm. And, as good as we horsemen that we're going to be, and we can speak their language, kind of horsemanship there and body language. And it's like me speaking English, it's never going to be good enough. It's not my mother tongue, yeah? So when I speak with my horse, which we know one each other, he understands me already, and he helped me to explain to the younger horse, that makes a difference.
So could you speak to them in Hebrew? Do they understand that better?
So I'm walking from another horse, and then I introduce everything from above.
Coming right up, we're going to dig down into the vault for another amazing story, and then it's the Rangeland News when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West.
Stories from the vault, from the Spirit of the West. This is where we dig deep for some of the most amazing stories from the folks who bring some heartwarming, knee-slapping, spellbinding episodes.
And another one from the amazing collection of stories from the late, great Tom Monk.
And one other story I'd like to tell you is about the worst thing that ever happened to me when I was working on ranches, and that's when my friend Al got treed. And it all happened one fall when we were gathering cattle in the high country in between Woody Creek, Colorado, and the Frying Pan River. It's all high country up there, 11,000 feet or so. Pretty cold in the fall. You better be prepared when you ride a horse up there because you really get cold. And Al and I were up around the Colby Park area, and we had a thermos of hot coffee in the saddlebag, so we stopped, made a little fire, and took a break. Well, Al said, if you won't mind, he said, excuse me for a minute, I got to go off into the brush for a few minutes. I said, go ahead, I'll be right here. And he hadn't been gone 30 seconds, and I heard a blood-curdling scream. I knew it was Al. I knew something was attacking him. So I ran to my horse, and I got a rifle out of the scabbard, and I just started shooting in the air and running towards where he was screaming from. And I figured I'd maybe chase off whatever was attacking him. And I got to a little clearing in the scrub oaks, and sure enough, Al had climbed a little scrub oak tree, and he was up there. And a bear was running off in the other direction. My shooting had scared it off. Well, I looked at the bottom of the tree, and to my horror, I could see that both of Al's ears were down at the trunk of it. And he came down out of the tree, and we gathered up his ears and put him in the saddlebag and rode back to cow camp as fast as we could because we knew this was an emergency and we had to do something for Al. It was too far to get to a hospital right away. We knew we'd have to probably doctor him up ourselves. So we got into the bunkhouse, and he said, Tom, he said, you got to try to put them ears back on me because by the time we get to a hospital, they'll be deteriorated too much to save. He said, you got that old guitar over in the corner. Why don't you take that little string off and we'll use that for stitching material. So I said, okay, and he laid on the ground and he said, before we start the operation, do me a favor. Underneath the bunk, I've got my old suitcase I brought up in the panniard. There's a bottle of whiskey in there, and I haven't opened it yet. Bring it over here, he said. So I got it out, and he opened it up, and he drank it halfway down. And he said, this will kill the pain for me. But he said, I want you to drink the other half because, you know, I want you to have a steady hand and relax. He said, I can see you're nervous about this. And I said, well, yeah, that's true. So I did. I drank it down, and Al laid right on the floor, and I sewed those ears back on, and then I took a little branding iron, stuck it in the stove, and when it got hot enough, then I cauterized the wound, and that stopped the bleeding and prevented any infection. And we both went to sleep. Well, next morning I heard Al rumbling around early, and he went outside and he used the outhouse that's across the way from the bunkhouse, and I heard another blood-curdling yell. I thought, oh, no, I can't believe this. And I ran to the door, and it was Al coming out of the outhouse. There's an old mirror in that outhouse, and he looked at the mirror, and that's what made him scream. He said, look at my ears. He said, you sewed them on backwards and upside down. Well, to my horror, I could see that he was right. The problem was that Al was really mad, and you had to stay away from Al when he got mad because he was kind of dangerous. Well, he started chasing me. He said he was going to get even and all this. Well, I ran as fast as I could for several hundred yards, but Al was in awful good shape, and he was catching up with me. Finally, we were out on Sagebrush Flats, and all there was between me and him was one sagebrush, and we kept kind of circling around it. All of a sudden, I heard a rattlesnake rattling. Well, it was sunny out by then, and it was warm, and a rattlesnake had come out and was laying under some rocks under that sagebrush. And I stepped back away from him because I could hear him, and then I looked down, I could see him. Well, Al, the problem with Al, he had the ears on backwards, so he heard the noise coming from the other direction, so he stepped forward. And that's when he got bit right on the knee by that rattlesnake. Well, I had to doctor him up again, and it took the fight out of him, believe me, when he got bit by that rattlesnake. And we finally got him down to the hospital, and the doctors were able to straighten things out. And I went in to visit him, and he said, well, you know, Tom, I can't really be mad at you because you have saved my life, and twice in 2 days. So I look back on it now, and it was pretty funny now, but at the time it wasn't all that funny. It was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me while I was working on a ranch.
Tom Munn, and I can't wait to hear what's going to come out of the vault next week. The 2022 Top Gun Spring Horse Sale runs April 9th at the Cal Nash Event Center, Ponoka, Alberta, and is an online timed auction. This is the best place to find your next great horse for any discipline. Ranch horses, team penners, all kinds of rope horses, kids horses, horses for mounted shooting, trail riding, and more. And you can get all the information and register to bid at topgunhorsesales.com, following all the guidelines and helping you find your next great horse. For more information, call Jordan Dodds, 403-783-0246. Love looking through the horses in their website. Boy, they got a lot of great ones lined up for that great sale. Well, the Rangelad News coming up right after Manitoba rancher Larry Krause and Silver Buckle.
They got him out the gate and raked him down in steel and leather. A picture of his poetry, just horse and man together. There was nothing less than terror when that bronc came apart. He took the pay at the gate that day and won that lady's heart. Silver Buckles take her tight rein as she's a-watching from the chutes. She's wild-eyed and ready in those jeans and riding boots. She's lost somewhere between your hat and the jingle of your spurs, and there ain't enough rosin in your duffel bag for you to hang on to her. his guitar, sing the ballads of the ride, a Texas tailored woman that a man can take with pride. He'll set aside his rigging when he thinks he's got her tamed, then she'll leave his lariat and saddle in the rain. Silver buckles take a tie train as she's a-watching from the chutes. She's wild-eyed and ready in those jeans and her riding boots. She's lost somewhere between your hat and the jingle of your spurs, and there ain't enough rosin in your duffel bag for you to hang on to her. The shadows round the campfire where they sleep will disappear as he empties out his saddlebags with the words she likes to hear. And when the morning finds the man who rodeo has done, the melody will only be another cowboy song. Silver buckles take a tie train as she's a-watching from the chutes. She's wild-eyed and ready in those jeans and her riding boots. She's lost somewhere between your hat and the jingle of your spurs, and there ain't enough rosin in your duffel bag for you to hang on to her. No, there ain't enough rosin in your duffel bag for you to hang on to her.
The Rangeland News from the Spirit of the West, a roundup of issues and events from the world of agriculture.
At the top of page 1, it says a lot of folks who run custom summer grazing operations are crunching the numbers trying to figure out costs, and if the price of those yearlings or calves will cover those costs this fall. Well, all the info you can get is going to help, and Gary Crawford has some right now.
In the beef cattle business for the rest of this year, we have
tightening cattle supplies in the U.S.
USDA Outlook Chairman Mark Jekanowski says we're in the midst of a decline in cattle numbers that will lead to beef production this year dropping by well over 500 million pounds from 2021's output, while consumer demand continues strong and therefore also
cattle prices are strong.
Very strong.
So our current price forecast for steers is at $137.50 per hundredweight.
Over $15 more than last year's average. Again,
it's reflecting those tight supplies and very strong meat demand as well.
Meanwhile, that demand for beef continues to grow, but USDA's chief economist Seth Meyer told us,
I think we'll continue to see beef production decline over the next couple of years.
Because even if producers decide right now to increase herd numbers, bovine biology dictates, of course, at least a year to 18 months before you'd have more animals reaching slaughter weight. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
The Canadian Cattlemen's Association is pleased to see progress on a future Canada-United Kingdom free trade agreement with the tabling of the objectives for negotiations back on February 16th. Canada and the UK are currently operating under the interim agreement, and CCA's highest priority has been on achieving long-term ambitious free trade agreements with the UK that resolves the existing limiting factors. And as we see some of the COVID restrictions being lifted, Alberta Farm Animal Care is hosting the annual Livestock Care Conference virtually from March 15th to March 17th, 2022. And to get the links to the conference, you can go to the AFAC website. And now that the COVID restrictions are ramping down a little more, vaccine passports and testing will not be required at Horse Expo Canada. And as long as Alberta is in step 2 of the reopening plan by the time our expo happens, there will not be any indoor mask requirements. And also regarding the Horse Expo in Red Deer, there still are exhibitor spaces available, and anybody interested can download an exhibitor package from horseexpo.ca right there on the home page. And they're also doing a giveaway, and it's right on now. Anybody who purchases a weekend ticket from now until March 31st will be entered into a draw to win a $1,000 shopping spree at Horse Expo. And there will also be 3 runner-up $100 shopping spree prizes. The full contest rules at horseexpo.ca/contest2022. Well, the next regular cattle sale at the BC Livestock Co-op Kamloops Yards is March the 8th, and then March 17th, the regular sale at Williams Lake, and March the 18th in Vanderhoof. Get all this information, and you can actually watch the sales live at bclivestock.bc.ca. Meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market, regular sales every Wednesday. Lots of special sales coming up. Get all the info at innisfailauctionmarket.com. And to book your cattle for the sales, just call Danny, Mark, or Dwayne, 1-800-710-3166. Now the final item. It was his first week of school in the first grade. He was 6 years old, and he was in trouble. The teacher said, "I don't know what I'm going to do with you. You sure talk a lot in class." And he said, "Oh, I can't really help it, teacher. It's hereditary. My uncle is an auctioneer. My cousin's a rodeo announcer, and my dad's a radio announcer." And the teacher says, "Well, what about your mom?" He says, "Well, she's a woman." And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up in the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, how some gems of horsemanship wisdom can really make a difference. And there's more from Shlomik Raziel when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. An interesting horse training file for sure for Irvin Saddles and Western Wear right after we check the old GPS, make sure we got the directions right, and then we go. Here's an updated version on our Spirit of the West farewell cruise. After 19 years of hosting the finest people you could ever meet in some of the most amazing places you could ever be, Billy and I will be stepping back after this one, and we really want to make it two things: simple, uncomplicated, and the best experience you can have. We love Alaska and all it has to offer. Cruising the spectacular Inside Passage, touring Juneau, historic Skagway, and the amazing Red Dog Saloon, and trying to get the guys to come back out of there. The White Pass Rail Tour on the Trail of the Gold Rush. Lots of live Western music, stories, cowboy poetry, sing-alongs, and so much more. And we'll kick it all off with a special show with the amazing Western Spirit Band right here at the McLennan Ranch. And then we take you to spectacular Sun Peaks, where we spend the night, then down to the ocean for a night in a spectacular waterfront hotel before boarding the luxurious and brand new Holland America Koningsdam. Now this is important. If you would like to join us, please reserve your spot as soon as possible by calling 1-800-530-0131. Sure hope you can come along and share in the good time.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Here at Irvin Tack and Western Wear, their boot room and back room is stocked and stacked with the top brand names.
Shh, I'm doing inventory. 258.
Western styles for cowboys and cowgirls.
9.
Work boots, muck boots, hiking boots.
60.
Even boots for your cattle and horses.
Nice try, funny guy. 261.
Whoa, she's good. Shop online at urbans.ca or stop in today, exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossview, Canada's largest Western store. Once in a while, a gem of wisdom drops out of the sky from somewhere, and those who find it are indeed fortunate. Now, how's this one? The next time you are inclined to turn up the pressure, first try turning it down. Well, you might be surprised at the result, and it also applies to horse handling as well as human relationships. There's nothing more satisfying than riding a horse that has a touch so light they seem to pick up what you visualize and do it before you even physically cue them. And when you think about it, a horse can feel a fly land on his back and with a twitch of the right muscle, send the fly on his way. A horse is always looking for leadership and comfort. And when he's in total sync with a savvy rider, the harmony is awesome. It starts, I think, with a rider being as much in tune with the horse as the horse is with the rider. Our timing, our balance, the intensity of our cues must match the reception of the horse. Some horses will be naturally responsive, and with the right rider, they'll do amazing things in a very short time. And some horses, especially those who've been ridden by a lot of different riders, might have developed a certain dullness, a lack of response, because they've received so many conflicting cues over the years. Can these horses develop lightness in a rider's hands? Well, yeah, most of them can, and they will, in the hands of an understanding rider. I'll never forget watching the great Kenny McLean at a seniors rodeo, still calf roping, on a horse that he trained, and when he made his catch, the horse broke at the pole, relaxed his jaw, screwed his tail into the ground, and made a beautiful stop. And there was still slack in the reins, and Kenny wasn't using the tie-down. The next time you're inclined to turn up the pressure, first try turning it down, and you might be surprised at the result.
And for Irvin Saddles and Western Wear, that's the Horse Training File. Our horses are still doing well, haven't had a lot of work this winter, but looking forward to spring brandings and then all kinds of range work. And it's that daily feeding of Hoffman's horse ration, I think, that really keeps them going. You can find out all about it at hoffmanshorseproducts.com. And now listen to this. Announcing Horse Expo Canada, the largest equine trade show in Western Canada at Westerner Park, Red Deer, Alberta, April 15th to 17th, 2022. There'll be a trainers showdown as 3 outstanding horsemen will start 3 promising colts, Cade Mills, Jason Irwin, and Trevor Murtis. Great opportunities to learn from Western Horsemen's winner of their Women of the West Award and many more awards, Barbara Schulte, and a chance to learn about mounted shooting and much more from Kane Kwong. Stay tuned, we'll tell you more about who's going to be there in the coming weeks. For tickets and information, see horseexpo.ca or call 1-833-425-1799. Boy, there's a great list of trainers and clinicians. Some folks that have been added recently are people like Sally Sauer from Washington. Man, I rode a lot of miles with her husband, Roger Sauer, a long time ago, and Glenn Stewart will just be making his return from the road to the horse in Kentucky. You know, something that a lot of cowboys have really tried to find is a full-time riding job. Often it comes with other responsibilities like fencing, feeding, and sometimes even shutter tractor work. And on that subject, here's Brian Hill.
Branded by the land, befriended by the wind. You may never pass this way again. But something in the wind is saying that your time is now, boy. Your daddy calls you a drifter. I call you cowboy. I still remember how it rained, still hear the whistling wire. I know we really haven't changed since our first branding fire. It's such a long, winding road through years of sacrifice. If we knew then, now what do we know? Would we still choose the life? We rode the glory trail, my friend, that leads right straight to God. Still searching everywhere west to find a riding job. You take the Baker Highway home to southeast Oregon. You take it easy all alone, but you are not alone. For hungry mouths you have to fill, new dreams to carry on. You're just a buckaroo, but still your legacy grows strong. You ride the glory trail, my friend, that leads right straight to God. Still searching everywhere west to find the riding job. break of dawn and ride into the wind to see the west before it's gone once more with you, my friend, to ride the glory trail again that leads right straight to God, still searching everywhere west to find the riding job, to find the riding job, to find the riding job.
Brian Hill's music is kind of in a class by itself, and if you ever get a chance to see him live, don't miss it. Shlomik Raziel prefers to start colts from the back of a seasoned saddle horse rather than from the ground.
So I'm walking from another horse, and then I introduce everything from above. So whenever I go to sit on him on the first time, it's not going to be the first time that he feels something from above. So I get him relaxed when I'm above him. And then it's very natural to go to the step whenever I go from one horse to the other. And the first 2-3 rides, then to go from the fence, it's easier. You know, a lot of
so
horses.
you're sitting on one horse and you step across onto the colt from the other horse. Yeah, that's. I don't do that, but I've seen guys do that, and that seems to really work for that first time you're sitting on that colt. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I watching one fellow one time, and the quiet saddle horse he was on jumped and spooked more than the colt did. When he got off the saddle horse and onto the colt was fine. The saddle horse said, "Where'd he go?"
Well, you need a really, really good horse that you can trust him, and then that's the environment that the older horse share in the mountain. It helps to get things relaxed, and that young horse see the older horse relax, that helps a lot.
Picks up on it, for sure. Well, Shlomik, thank you so much for taking some time to do this, and I think they should make a movie out of your life. Maybe they will someday. It would be a real gripper for sure. So thanks for doing this, and good luck for the rest of the reunion.
Thank you very, very much. I'm so happy to be here, and I feel honored, to be here and be among all those amazing people, everybody, the horsemen and the people that help us, with the horses and in the office, and everybody is so nice and just fun, a lot of fun.
Well, I guess we call it the cowboy way.
Still to come is this week's classic Song of the West and a great piece of Brian Salmond's cowboy poetry when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Boy, we have a nice one in the classic Song of the West segment this time. There's a female country singer who shared the stage with all kinds of big country stars, including Marty Robbins and Jim Reeves, and I've even played guitar for her on a few shows. Her name is Shirley Field, and here she is with a song written by Rex Allen Sr.
Saddle and the clear blue sky above. It's there I long to be, 'cause it's where my soul is free. Sing me a song of my love. cowboy as he rides o'er hill and dale. He don't know much of art, but his song is from the heart. Sing me a song of the trail. When shadows creep and day is getting long, he sings a tender lullaby. His herd will sleep because they fear no wrong, as long as he's riding nigh. Sing me a song of the saddle and the plain I love to roam, where God and man are one and the work is being done. Sing me a song of my home. When shadows creep and day is getting long, he sings a tender lullaby. His herd will sleep because they fear no wrong, as long as he's riding nigh. Sing me a song of the saddle and the plain I love to roam, where God and man are one and the work is being done. Sing me a song of my home.
You know, even the most creative songwriters and poets struggle at times to find the lines. And that's what this one from Brian Salmond is all about.
The pencil stood there staring at a blank and empty page. No rhyming lines of new ideal awaiting for the stage. For the poet's aging mindset, his busy life and such, procrastination all the time, he hadn't written much. But every morn when he'd awake, in the twilight of his mind, were dancing lines of prose and wit, the rare and precious kind. And he'd grasp at these all through the day, but never write a word. No evidence of what he sees and nothing he had heard. For his image of the Rockies with pristine valleys wide, or Mother Nature's garden spots, he couldn't quite decide. He'd ponder on a pack horse wreck all spread across the west, or take you to a Brandon pen, just who could rope the best. Then pause a bit and reminisce in Western cowboy code. His eyes will tear in deep respect to horses he has rode. Then he takes off on a tangent about the country way of life, of quiet times about the ranch, his family and his wife. The best dang dog he ever owned, his old red pickup truck, or throwing fate into the wind and trusting to your luck. The ropings and the range wrecks are things that he could write, or dancing to an old-time waltz, or cabin through the night. The bullfights and the bronc rides were out there mowing hay, wire cuts and heartbreaks when old bad luck had its way. His pen could take you on a trip to a quiet mountain brook and show you where the big ones are and even bait your hook. Then sit and share a cup of life with the aging and the wise and write it down before it's gone amidst our very eyes. Let's harness up the black team and hook 'em to the sleigh and hear the jingle of the tugs on a frosty winter day, the straw blow of the thrashers, the stooks and bundle racks, of summer rains, yet years so dry the earth was showing cracks, and pen some words of laughter, some verses with a smile, then capture what I've seen or done in cowboy poet style. I'd love to write of all these things for each and every one, and someday soon, it's in my plans to up and get her done.
Oh, isn't that something? Well, thank you so much for riding along, and I sure hope you'll be back right here next week at the same time. And as always, gotta say thanks to Mark and Kathy McMillan, the Spirit of the West support crew. And remember to check the latest issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine for the real flavor of the West. And if you can, check out our YouTube channel, where you can see this show and all our past ones with video. And you can also download the show as a podcast and take it with you. The link's on our website, hugh-mclennan.com. Till next week, I am Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.